Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, September 2nd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. If the heat doesn't get you this holiday weekend, the crowds just might. If you've got plans to get away, you're not alone, as cheaper gas and air flights are fueling travel plans. KPBS reporter John Carroll has a look at what to expect in our region.
A lot of people are en route to their holiday weekend destinations right now. In fact, AAA says today will be the busiest travel day over the Labor Day holiday. 32% of Americans who took part in a recent survey say they're leaving home this weekend, and most of that travel will be happening on the road.
The vast majority, 82%, are going to be traveling by car.
The Auto Club's Ann Jane Venegas says travel had slowed down earlier this year due to high gas prices and inflation in general. But gas prices have fallen for 79 days straight.
80% said they made cutbacks to save money, so they basically drove less.
But as gas prices have fallen, more people have been hitting the road, and a lot of people are flying as well. It's been a rough summer in the air. Pilots threatening to strike. Thousands of cancellations, but not at San Diego International. Here on the departure boards, you can see there are a few delays. Those show up in yellow, nothing too bad. It's midday right now. And over here on the arrival boards, also a few more delays shown in yellow. But the point is, amongst all of this, not one cancellation. Good news, but getting in and out of the airport over this weekend, well, that's going to take quite a bit of patience.
What we anticipate from September 1st through September 6th, which is the Labor Day weekend, is about 70 to 80,000 passengers coming and going through the airport.
Coming and going through the airport is more difficult now than it was in the past. You can thank construction work on the new Terminal 1 for that.
We really encourage people to arrive ahead of time, 2 hours at least. If you can get a ride from someone, that's a good idea. We're making parking reservations to ensure your trip to the airport will be smooth.
A smooth travel experience, about the best anybody could hope for, as thousands of Californians and millions of Americans get out of town over the traditional last weekend of summer. John Carroll, KPBS News.
More than 1,500 people are back home tonight after all evacuation orders from the Border 32 fire were lifted. State Route 94 is also back open, although the Tecate port of entry will remain closed until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. At the last update, the fire was 20% contained and holding at around 4,400 acres. As hundreds of people ran from the flames, a special team ran towards them to save animals and pets left behind. Here's KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado.
When the San Diego Humane Society's emergency response team got deployed to the Border 32 fire on Wednesday, they arrived to the sun going down in a rural community during a state of emergency.
The first night was chaotic due to the fact that everybody was trying to leave and they couldn't get back home to get their animals, and then that's where we came in.
Chaotic because there were roadblocks, fire trucks everywhere, and an active fire burning all around them. But they got to work immediately, saving animals in harm's way.
The areas that we were in doing evacuations, there was actually active fires burning around, and we were getting animals out of properties, kind of like last minute situations.
The response team found one remote property with dozens of animals surrounded by flames, some of them trapped in cages and others tied up. The terrain was treacherous.
They couldn't get down to the property due to the fact that it was actively on fire. The fire department had to cut them an access point to get into the property to get the animals out. So it was up a very steep hill, and all night long they were having cows, dogs, chickens, pigs. all the animals you can think of.
In the end, over 100 animals were found on that property that is now under investigation by the county for animal cruelty. So far, the emergency response team has done hundreds of animal welfare checks and rescues during the Border 32 fire. And despite risk to their own safety, a grueling heat wave, and pulling an all-nighter the next day,
They all showed back up.
And most of them do this for no pay.
And they showed back up today. And they'll show back up tomorrow. I couldn't be prouder.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
It's a historic weekend for San Diego State with the first football game at the brand new Snapdragon Stadium, but it's taking place in the middle of the day, in the middle of a heat wave. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says fans should not expect to get much relief.
This time tomorrow, Snapdragon Stadium, it's going to be packed full of thousands of people watching Aztec football. Right now, today, it's in the mid-90s. Tomorrow, it's going to be even hotter, and that could spell trouble for people because, as you can see, there is not a lot of shade in this stadium.
This is the first game of the season. There is no roof there. We are expecting to see a good volume of heat-related illnesses.
Mark Celopak is Falck San Diego's operations manager. He says 911 advanced life support crews will be on hand during Saturday's game. There's an excessive heat warning, and temperatures could be as high as 98 degrees come game time. Forecasters say it's going to be muggy, which is a recipe for heat exhaustion.
What I do recommend is staying hydrated. Prepare for it today. Drink water now.
Another tip, people may want to consider limiting the amount of alcohol they drink.
Another important factor is looking out for each other. You look for signs and symptoms amongst each other, dizziness, lightheaded, headache, nausea, increased sweating, hot skins.
In a statement, a San Diego State athletics spokesperson said they are encouraging fans to take extra precautions. Sealed water and empty bottles up to 32 ounces are allowed inside, and there will be some cooling stations with water misters. The spokesperson says there are also 6 water stations around the stadium.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
SDSU football season ticket holder Eddie O'Brien came to check out the stadium before hitting the home opener. Heat was definitely on his mind.
There's no shade. People are going to be using newspapers, I guess. There's no shade. My plan is to wear a very large hat and drink a lot.
Wearing hats or loose-fitting clothing can help. Forecasters also say people need to be taking shade breaks. Under the stadium stands is one of the only places fans can avoid the sun. The SDSU spokesperson did not answer a question about why the stadium doesn't have built-in shade. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
County officials have set up cool zones for the community to escape the heat, but as KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us, advocates in Escondido say access isn't equal for everyone.
This weekend is expected to be a scorcher in San Diego. To help people catch a break, the county has set up cool zones where people can find refuge from the heat. But browsing the interactive map, the cool zones start to dissipate in the North and East County. Valley Center, a city known for being a hotter area, only has 1 cool zone set up. The city of Escondido has 3 cool zones, but 2 of them will be closed on Sunday and Monday.
There's people already experiencing heat stroke that had no idea there was a heat wave coming. They didn't know there was cooling stations. They didn't know where to go to.
This man wished to remain anonymous. He said he and a group of friends took it upon themselves to distribute water to people experiencing homelessness in Escondido to help with the heat.
So after we handed out water, we went back later that day and passed out flyers to let them know where the cool zones were. And they were very thankful. You know, I think it's an epic failure on the part of Escondido to not even inform people living outside that there is cool zones or where to find them. If a small group of friends can drive around and do it, the city of Escondido with all of its resources can do it.
Jeff Murdoch, the emergency preparedness manager for the city of Escondido, says information about the cool zones was distributed in various ways.
We've put a lot of information about how to be safe during this heat event. We've put information out on our Facebook and other social media pages. We've also published some other, like we have a weekly activity report that people have access to on our website.
Murdoch says Escondido police also do outreach, informing people living on the streets about ways to escape the heat. But the man giving out water questions how welcoming these places are to homeless individuals.
Part of the problem too is these cool zones, they're not open on Sunday, the hottest day this week. and people living outside, they don't have access to the internet or to look up these resources or where they're at. So it just seems all around like a complete failure this week.
In a statement from the county, they said cool zone participation is voluntary. Some sites, such as county libraries, are under county jurisdiction, and therefore the county has the ability to provide staffing outside of typical hours, such as on Sundays. The county said they are also partnering with 211 and providing no-cost transportation to cool zone locations. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
While libraries and rec centers are normally closed on holidays, the city of San Diego is keeping some facilities open for the holiday weekend as cool zones. They will be open on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from noon to 5 o'clock in the evening each day. And you can find the full list on our website, kpbs.org.
Temperatures on the rise over the holiday weekend, and we'll have sweltering conditions continuing here right through the beginning of next week. We'll be concerned about very hot days and very warm nights, especially as we take you to Saturday and Sunday. A little bit of moisture coming through on the easterly flow, so just an isolated storm in the mountains over the weekend. And with that easterly flow, a couple of those could drift down into some of the inland valleys, but we're not expecting much. Do anticipate extreme heat, though, and look at the heat warnings. They're in effect right through Tuesday evening, so it's a long, hot stretch. And we're calling for a dangerous heat wave here, extreme heat. Very little relief at the coast, especially Saturday into Sunday, but a little bit of more relief will start to work back in at the coast Monday into early next week. So temperature is well above average. Records challenged, high energy demands, brownouts expected, a high fire danger too, and the risk for heat-related illness. So it's a big holiday weekend. Please don't overexert yourself. Overnight tonight, a few clouds, warm and humid, our low 73. Temperatures tonight settling down to 77 in El Cajon. What a warm night. Escondido 72. Any storms in the mountains would be isolated. And as we take a look at tomorrow's forecast, sizzling here. Look at that triple-digit heat. Escondido, Ramona, down to El Cajon. And, of course, it's hot over here in Borrego Springs. Here's a look at the future satellite and radar. Well, you don't see a lot of cloud cover out there, do you, at all? But notice with that easterly flow, there could be an isolated storm. I'm not expecting a lot of activity. So here's our forecast. It's hot at the coast, not quite as hot early next week. Take you to the inland sections. It's very hot, not quite as hot next week. Mountain areas, watch for that isolated storm. It's very warm. And in the deserts, of course, it'll be quite hot here. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
And for a third straight day, high heat and heightened demand for electricity has resulted in a statewide call for voluntary conservation, also called a flex alert. And now another set for tomorrow. But do people actually participate? Here's KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer.
With triple-digit temperatures in much of California and the West, the power grid operator is again, for the third straight day, expecting high electricity demand. That demand is primarily from air conditioning use, and the California Independent System Operator is asking for residents to cut back on energy use between 4 and 9 p.m. to help balance supply and demand. Elliot Mainzer is the CEO of CalISO.
The prolonged heat wave across much of California and the West pushed demand to its highest levels for our grid since September 2017. Today, we want everyone to know the hottest weather in this extended heat wave is still ahead of us.
But do flex alerts actually make a difference? Scott Anders is the director of the Energy Policy Initiative Center at the University of San Diego.
It can make a difference because really, if you think about it, it just takes, a little bit to push us over the edge, right? And so this kind of voluntary call can actually create a buffer to help grid operators keep things going.
He says the flex alerts coincide with the time of day when much of the grid's solar energy reserves start to deplete. Samantha Moan is a San Diego resident who thinks too much responsibility for energy use is falling on everyday Californians.
I think that it's a lot to ask of people to not use these appliances when this is the time that they're at home, like after people get home from work or maybe kids get off of school. People tend to turn on their ECs or watch TV and make dinner or make food. So these hours that they're asking us to do it don't really work with maybe people's schedules a lot.
Locally, SDG&E is not planning to impose temporary power outages in San Diego County due to the elevated risk of wildfires. During statewide flex alerts, residents are urged to save power by setting thermostats to 78 degrees or higher, avoiding use of major appliances, turning off unnecessary lights, and avoiding charging electric vehicles. Residents are also advised to pre-cool their homes as much as possible and close blinds and drapes to keep cool. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Electric vehicle owners are being asked to avoid charging their cars during flex alerts, but how will these restrictions affect the state as California moves away from gas-powered cars in favor of EVs? Leanne Melendez reports.
Very few EV owners knew not to charge their cars tonight during today's peak time from 4 to 9. The request was made by the California Independent System Operator, which monitors real-time grid conditions.
Well, I didn't hear it, so I didn't know about it.
Once we told Ahmad Payvandi of Fremont, he immediately opted for charging his EV closer to midday, putting less demand on the grid.
Yeah, if I know there's an alert, I would do it because probably this is going to cause problems somewhere else. Outages.
But most people, 80% of EV owners, charge their vehicles after work when they get home.
And the result of that is going to be that the grid's going to have to be quite a lot larger, maybe 20-30% larger, just to meet that extra demand.
That's David Victor of the UC San Diego School of Global Policy and Strategy, who says California will have to expand the electrical grid to accommodate the demand for more EVs. People, he says, will also have to be more flexible with their charging times.
And so what we really need to do is convince people to move their charging from nighttime to the middle of the day. And that means for people who are back in the office, that means workplace charging, parking your car, having a device there that can charge the car.
According to Governor Newsom's office, there are more than 1.1 million EVs registered in the state. California controls the market with 39% of all EVs in the country. And by 2035, all new cars here will be zero-emission vehicles, most pulling from the grid. So how do EV owners become immune to the flex alerts years from now? Scott Painter is the CEO and founder of Autonomy, an electric vehicle subscription app. He says expanding DC charging stations will help because they are battery powered and charge a vehicle in minutes.
So when you go and charge at a DC fast charging station, you are not putting load on the grid. So that's going to be by far the most responsible way as an EV owner to really lighten the load on the grid.
And that was Leanne Melendez reporting. The state legislature has made it a goal to have 10,000 fast charging stations across the state by the year 2025. An increase in collisions involving e-bikes has prompted the city of Carlsbad to declare an emergency and put more money into traffic safety. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has the details.
More and more people are turning to bikes as a mode of transportation, especially e-bikes. But this shift has also brought an increase in bicycle-involved collisions.
Collisions involving bikes and e-bikes have increased over 200% since 2019. And, as you know, we also experienced 2 tragic fatalities in August.
The spike in crashes prompted city officials to declare a local emergency for bike and e-bike safety. This week, the council authorized $2 million for road safety. City Manager Scott Chadwick explains how that money will be used.
Just over half of the $2 million that we're requesting will go towards short-term actions to accelerate infrastructure projects like traffic calming, more restriping of city streets in connection with our street resurfacing project that's starting next week.
Chadwick said the rest of the funds are already going to more traffic enforcement, especially around schools. Since the emergency proclamation, the police department says it's issued about 4 times as many warnings and citations as a typical week. There will also be message boards throughout the city and new training and education programs.
That is the approach that every city in America has taken whenever there is a string of traffic fatalities over the last 50 years, and it has never been effective in increasing road safety.
William Radigan with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition says Carlsbad's initiative isn't the best approach to improve traffic safety for cyclists.
It may be effective for a short period while there is extremely intense enforcement, but it's certainly not a durable strategy. It never lasts.
Radigan says the coalition is happy to see the investments into safer road infrastructure in Carlsbad, but he hopes the enforcement approach doesn't target cyclists in particular.
But when we're thinking about where enforcement efforts should go, it should be almost entirely on the drivers, because those are the road users causing the vast, vast majority of harm.
He says Carlsbad has more work to do when it comes to slowing vehicles down and creating physical separations between cyclists and drivers on the roads.
We can put safety improvements in. We know what they are that will save lives. And I think that is worth making motorists slow down, having their commute be a minute or two longer, having the government spend what is a minuscule amount of money in comparison to how much it spends on highways.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
New protected bike lanes and bus-only lanes are coming to Balboa Park. Today, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria made public his choice for a 1.2-mile stretch of Park Boulevard. For months, city officials have been mulling a redesign to improve safety for cyclists and efficiency for transit riders. Bike SD board member Nevo Magnesi says Park Boulevard is a popular bus route, but congestion often causes delays.
I think that the bus lane will help kind of guarantee on-time service during times when Balboa Park is full of visitors.
And to make space for the bike and bus lanes, the city will remove one car lane and most of the street parking on Park Boulevard. The new COVID-19 boosters targeting Omicron strains of the virus are expected to arrive in San Diego County next week. They were developed to generate an immune response from the original COVID virus and the BA4 and BA5 subvariants. The Pfizer boosters will be available to those aged 12 and over, while the Moderna shots are for those aged 18 and over. The county will update booster availability online at coronavirus-sd.com. The latest jobs report shows continued growth this summer and a shift away from a trend we saw during the pandemic. SDSU's Mira Kopik has the Friday Business Report.
The jobs report was a fairly solid jobs report. We had 315,000 jobs added last month. Unemployment rate ticked up just a little bit to 3.7%. And that really was due to actually a lot of people coming into the labor force. All sectors saw some kind of job growth. We saw an increase in healthcare by over 48,000 jobs. Retail, which has surpassed its pre-pandemic levels, grew 44,000. Leisure and hospitality, which have been kind of really making some strides in the last 6 months, grew, but not as fast. The interesting statistic actually is that teleworking, so to people looking for flexible work schedules and opportunities, that has continued to decline substantially since the pandemic. Last month, 6.5% of the workforce worked from home, down from 7.1%. So, although this is an important trend, it's one that a lot of people are going back to work.
And here is an idea to both save money and beat the heat. Major chains like AMC, Cinemark, and Regal are pulling out all the stops for National Cinema Day. Tickets for all shows are just $3 on Saturday. You can find a participating theater near you on the website nationalcinemaday.org. And as a bonus, AMC will be offering a drink popcorn combo for just $5. The second annual AfroCon takes place this weekend at the Jackie Robinson Family YMCA. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando shows us what to expect.
In 2018, Black Panther rousingly placed Afrofuturism in the pop culture zeitgeist. Afrofuturism is a movement including film, art, music, and literature, featuring futuristic or sci-fi themes that incorporate Black history and culture. The success of Black Panther inspired San Diego's first Afrofuturism lounge that same year. And from that evolved AfroCon. Founder Lawana Richmond says people can expect more than just fun.
They can also expect to, engage in discourse around critical topics that are relevant to just improving society. And then also they can expect to connect with industry opportunities in terms of meeting other people who have shared interests that they could potentially collaborate with and continue the process of creation.
AfroCon provides an educational and informative space for creative thinkers. And this year, it will also host the U.S. premiere of Ojanoma.
Once upon a time, long ago, in the 54 United Kingdoms of Tamaray, lived King Ofasa and his beautiful wife, Queen Akinti of the Naturu Kingdom.
The film mixes familiar fairy tale elements with Afrofuturist themes, says filmmaker Demaraye Denoran.
One of the things is that seeing ourselves in the future, that's something that's always brought up. So I think like Afrofuturism, the image, you know, it allows people to project themselves to project themselves basically, especially for the young. They can project themselves and see themselves in many different ways and be who they want to be.
Richmond created AfroCon to explore Afrofuturism and its ideas about imagining something better.
If we want something different, we have to start by actually being able to imagine something different. And I think that it's important in terms of creating neural pathways that support co-creation of better realities and engage people in understanding that they have agency in their life. And once they imagine something better, my hope is that then they'll take the steps to make that something better actually come into reality.
AfroCon takes place Saturday and Sunday at the Jackie Robinson Family YMCA and will host vendors, artists, and panels. Ojanoma screens Saturday night at the Ultrastar Mission Valley Cinemas. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.